Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'm not there. I'm in Wyoming interviewing a bunch of would-be congressional candidates and members of Congress. They're actually candidates already. But my buddy Kurt Schlichter has agreed to get up early and come down to the Studio West and announce to you what actually happened at Mar-a-Lago and in the deposition. Why in the world was the president invoking the Fifth Amendment in a civil proceeding? We'll let Kurt figure that out for you. He's the actual trial lawyer. I just play one on television. Take it away, Kurt.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. I am Kurt Schlichter, guest host here for the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm a retired United States Army infantry colonel. I am a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, as Hugh Hewitt noted. I am senior columnist at Townhall.com. You probably want to go to Townhall.com right now and read my latest opus, Afghanistan and the Collapse of Normal's Faith in the System. The hypothesis is the disaster 1 year ago in Afghanistan really woke up a lot of normal people. But if they weren't awake already, they're sure awake now after this Mar-a-Lago nonsense. And it is nonsense. Look, I see a lot of reasonable, helpful, smiling, happy people out there. Man, they're saying things to the effect of, well, we need to see what documents they found, and we need to get all the facts. And you couldn't be more wrong. No, there's no need to do any of that, because this raid by the FBI and the regime's Department of Justice is absolute. And Dwayne, your finger needs to be hovering over the dump button for me. It is absolute garbage. There is no set of facts, no circumstances in which this is okay. There is no set of facts, no web of evidence that could ever make this nonsense all right. You don't send guys with guns to rifle through your political opponent's stuff and their wife's undies. Okay? The idea of it is so repugnant to anybody who has any sense of right and wrong, any sense of propriety and a love of the Constitution, any respect for things like norms, which are quaint. I'm not sure we have norms anymore. I'm not sure we have any customs or practices anymore. I think it's just the raw exercise of power. And I got to say, guys, you're not going to like how that works out. I think you got a lot more to hide. I'm just saying. And I don't think that Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell, when we take back the House and the Senate, as we will, and we're going to be talking about that today, because right now we're in that designated period where Biden's winning, right? Because inflation's coming down, according to, well, cut number 11, Dina Titus of Nevada, cut number 11.
Well, a lot of the economists are saying that inflation is already coming down. Gas prices are coming down. So I believe that you will be able to feel it. Unemployment is very low now. People are back to work, so that's not the definition of a recession. And so people will feel that every day, and I'm optimistic about it. It's here in Nevada, when you have the monsoon season, people know that they need help when it comes to climate change.
What? That couldn't be more of a word salad if she sprinkled croutons on it. What the heck what was that? Yeah, inflation's coming down, and beware of monsoon season. Now, I don't want to be picky, but I am a trial lawyer, so things like facts and evidence do matter to me. If Nevada has a monsoon season already, how is their climate change doing it? Because it's already a season. Oh, I'm doing it again. I'm pretending that this stuff's supposed to make sense, instead of just be words for stupid people to listen to and go, yeah, that. There's a lot of stupid going on, folks. I mean, an incredible amount. Inflation is coming down. It's literally not coming down. Okay, gas was $6.30 a gallon about 2 months ago in Los Angeles, where I live. It's $6.30 now. Okay, I know this because I actually fill up my fine German touring sedan with gasoline, which costs an arm and a leg and somebody else's leg. Who do these people think they're fooling? Now look, we're in the phase of the election where it's the Joe Biden comeback. It's always like this, right? This is the comeback. Oh, Democrats are rushing ahead. Have you seen the polls? Well, I've seen the polls for the last 15 years, and gosh, they always seem to say what the regime wants them to say. It's totally weird. So, like as Hugh is frequently points out, you got the Wisconsin poll that had Trump 17 points behind. He ends up 0.6 points behind when the actual election happens. So, yeah, this is where the narrative is. Joe Biden's back. He's got his aviator glasses on. He's relatively conscious. He's inflation is down. And look at Trump. Trump's in trouble. He had classified material. Yeah, Trump had classified material. He's got the single integrated operating plan. It's dog-eared. He's got little Post-its in it where he's making notes. Because you know who's a detail-oriented guy? Donald Trump, a voracious reader. Oh, and then there was some other idiot, and I forget which one it is. I know when I say idiot in the media, I have to be more specific. He's like, Donald Trump could have had a list of all our double agents in Russia. Oh, you mean like the knock list from Mission Impossible? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, come on. Yeah, Donald Trump. I can just see Donald Trump. Yeah. Could I get the list of all our double agents? Well, here you go. Here you go, Mr. President. I just happen to have it here. He just slips it in his jacket. Moves his very long tie, slips it in his pocket. I'm going to take this home, and I'm going to put it in Melania's sock drawer. Because reasons. Yeah, and then what's the other thing? He's going to sell it to Putin, or he's going to sell it to the Saudis, or going to sell it to Putin because reasons and also stuff, and you're a transphobe. Here's my question. And it's like the eternal question that I deal with whenever I guest host here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Are they stupid, or do they think we are stupid? Let's see what Dana Milbank thinks, because he's right up that alley. Cut 15.
Look, this has been a horrific week in the sense of the threat to the rule of law. I mean, Republicans, with their violent talk, actual violence, have lit a bonfire in the threat of the rule of law. Earlier, Governor Hogan was saying he thinks this week was a win for Donald Trump. I think it's exactly the opposite. We can talk about them motivating Donald Trump's base. Guess what? They were already motivated. But what's happening now is they are putting Donald Trump on the ballot because of the way the Republicans have all grasped around him, the way they're going to knock out 9 of 10 of the House Republicans who voted for impeachment because of the Dobbs decision.
All right, I can't listen to this
January
idiot
6th
anymore.
hearings.
First of all, it is a tragedy that we've knocked out 9 of 10 Republicans who voted for impeachment. We need to make it 10 of 10. Every single one of them needs to be sent off to wherever you send traitors, suck-ups, and saps. So that's another thing. I love that Republicans are embracing violence. Oh, if Republicans were embracing violence, punk, you'd know it. The second of all, don't tell me about the rule of law. I'm looking at the Twitter machine, and there's some photos of like 500 illegal aliens marching across the border. I just saw a statistic this morning. In 2016, something like 29 people in San Diego died of fentanyl. This year, it's going to be 817. So, you little weasel, don't tell me about the rule of law. Don't tell me about the rule of law when your gal Felonia Milhouse Von Pantsuit gets subpoenaed and then promptly arrests or erases all her emails. Well, I am glad to see that classified materials not legal to have again. Oh, great. But see, you don't get to change the rules. Not at your convenience. They changed it once. It's okay. I know because James Comey, who had unimpeachable ethics and integrity, he told me. So that's the rule. You don't get to change it back. I don't care if Trump had classified material. I do not care. And I do not care if the liberals care that I don't care. It's time to get tough. It's time to get hard. It's time to play for keeps, and that's what we're doing here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, giving those Media Matters saps lots to write about, and I'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We are back on Mission Hugh Hewitt. That theme music by Lalo Schifrin is reminds us that Trump's got the knock list. He's got the list of double agents. I know, because guys in the media told me. And guys in the regime media are smart and competent people who you should listen to and obey. These purveyors of the official licensed narrative. Well, you owe them your respect and your obedience. Let's talk about something serious for a second, because our mainstream media is not serious. It's a bad joke. It's the Fozzie Bear routine of American politics. Food for the poor. As we start this new week, we're right at the halfway point in Hugh's summertime campaign for Food for the Poor. So far, men and women just like you have made very generous donations. We're about 35% of Hugh's initial goal. We're helping to feed many, many children who are refugees from the war in Ukraine. Just go to HughHewitt.com, click on the Help Ukraine banner to make a tax-deductible contribution in any amount. And I'd like you to hear about the impact your gifts are making. Listen to this pastor distributing emergency food on the ground in Ukraine, speaking through an interpreter.
Спасибо большое. Дякую вам, дякую. Yeah, he says thank you. You know, that's a famous Ukrainian kind of greeting. So. But you see, this what's happening here almost 24/7. You know, they bring children here, they bring moms. You know, so they get food here, and it's all happening here around this church. You know, so the church becomes like a lighthouse of hope for these devastated families.
Look, let's keep the momentum going as we kick off this new week. Right now, please go to HughHewitt.com. Make a tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Help Ukraine banner on Hugh's website. Your one-time gift in any amount will bless a hungry child at HughHewitt.com. If you prefer, you can call with your gift, 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE to help our friends at Food for the Poor. Hey, Look, there's talk about what the Republicans are going to do when they retake the House and the Senate, which I think they're going to. And a little later, Salena Zito is going to give us the inside scoop on the PA race, Dr. Oz versus Heart Attack Shrek. And look, I'm very hopeful that we're going to get ourselves a nice majority. And the pressure to impeach Joe Biden is going to be incredible. I'm not sure I support that, because I want you to look at the alternative to Joe Biden. Let's do cut number 4.
We know that we really are quite behind in terms of maximizing our collective understanding about how we will engage on the technology of today and what we can quickly and easily predict will be the technology over the next decades. So to maintain our position as the United States of America on this issue, it is critical that we work together to understand where we are, to recognize and have the courage to speak truth about what is obsolete, and then to partner to ensure that we are speaking the same language with the same motivation, inspired by the opportunity of it all, but then doing the work of updating how we have been talking and thinking about our exploration in space.
What the unholy hell is she talking about, Dwayne? She talks like Joe Biden bikes.
Just kind of rambles along, and then
suddenly we're in space.
And then suddenly you fall over.
Suddenly we're in the final frontier. Hold on. Cut number 3. I think she's going to continue a theme-ish.
With the exploration of space being defined in the 20th century, we know that living in this century, we must think about where we now stand and where we must go. So while it was defined quite well in the 20th century, the opportunity of space must guide our work in the 21st century.
She just demonstrated no comprehension of both space and time.
She's like somewhere Einstein's going, what the hell? E equals MC dummy. Wow. Joe Biden, You're safe. I do not support impeachment. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for a great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. We're coming back with Matthew Betley.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
Those guys are pretty fun.
Wow. This person is one crusty heartbeat away from the presidency. I'm Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I am joined by author of the new thriller, The Neighborhood, Matthew Betley. He's a former Marine. And I thought, because Marines are very linear folks, I thought I would play the vice president's whatever the hell that was, and get his reaction. Okay, you're a Marine. What do you think?
I'm just glad I know where I stand in this current century.
I'd like to stand outside it, throwing rocks at it.
Oh my gosh!
What was
painful.
that?
I hadn't heard that one yet.
That's
just enough.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, but I guess the guy who's got the big happy right now is Joe Biden, because we don't dare impeach him.
Why is that?
Because we don't dare impeach him with this cat as the follow-on. Hey, your new book, newest bestseller, The Neighborhood, came out last week. Tell us a little about it.
Oh, absolutely. So first, for the listeners, I actually wanted to, who have heard me on your show, I wrote a series of action thrillers in the Logan West series. But for this, what I wanted to do was write something new, a standalone thriller to bring in new readers. So what I did was I thought, a few years ago, I was standing outside. Every year we have what's called Fire Truck Santa, where the local, I think that's what they call it, where the local fire trucks, and they bring in all the fire trucks. They have somebody dressed up as Santa Claus, and they collect Toys for Tots. And as I was standing out there in the cold a few years ago, I thought, what if these guys were bad guys and wanted to take all of us hostage in our neighborhood? And that was how the idea...
Who hasn't had that thought?
Exactly. So that's how the idea for this book was created. And what it is, it's a story about a gated community 40 miles west of D.C. that comes under siege in the middle of one night, turns into a super modern take on a spy thriller with atypical characters. You've got a suburban dad, a 17-year-old female high school track star, and they have to figure out how to band together with their neighbors to survive this, what turns into a truly horrifying evening. And it's a very intense, wild ride. And I wanted to give new readers and listeners basically the Betley experience that I'm known for with my other books, but in a more contained environment.
Well, Matthew Betley, how does one get from Fallujah to the bestseller list?
Well, it's actually been a very long journey. The short of it is, as a lot of people know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, 13 and a half years sober. And I was fortunate to use the military's outpatient rehab program before I left the Marine Corps to get sober. And I was on vacation, sober 6 months at the time, and I was reading this boring bestseller, and I got so viscerally angry because the protagonist was so tactically inept that I turned to my now wife and said, oh my God, this guy should die because he's so bad, and I could write a better book than this. And I obsessed about it for a full year before I sat down and wrote my first book, Overwatch, which came out in 2016 and was a Military Times top 10 book of the year and nominated for Best Thriller of the Year. And since then, the career has kind of taken off, and I'm very fortunate and blessed to kind of be in this position.
Matt Betley, of course, I write the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, military guy too, obviously. And do you think, and of course we got guys like Jack Carr and Sean Parnell out there writing military thrillers, or just thrillers. I wouldn't call ours military. What do you think that veterans bring to the table that, other guys who write in the genre might not?
Well, they bring authenticity, first off. When I write, I'm not trying to, they bring authenticity, but they also bring a sense of esprit de corps, the camaraderie you experience in the military. But specifically, at least in my books, I'm not trying to tell people all about the weaponry, things like that. There's a certain line you don't want to cross, but I am going to try to tell people how to effectively use them, their realistic capabilities. So you bring that sense of realism, especially in my very long action sequences. If you look at movies, a good metaphor, you've got Michael Bay on one end of the spectrum and then Peter Berg on the other end of the spectrum. And I kind of place my thrillers right in the middle.
Well, Matt Betley, I've kind of had similar experiences. I had in one of my books, I think it was Collapse. They've got to blow up a bridge. And I was spending time talking to a demolition expert. And what I was seeking was how to not tell people how to blow up a big bridge. Make it seem realistic without actually doing it. Do you find yourself having to hold back on the things that you know or the things that you research just because you don't want to give some lunatic an idea? And there are a lot of lunatics out there.
Well, it depends on the research. If, for example, I've had a nuclear weapon, especially in my first book, Overwatch, and I'm not going to tell people how to build a nuclear weapon, but I am going to tell them.
Well, look, if you want to know how to build a nuclear weapon, you just simply go over to the Trump place, rifle through Melania's shoe closet, and I'm sure there's a couple workbooks there that Trump took for some light reading because he's a voracious reader.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, look, you like me, you understand about classified material and stuff. And I'm just a little curious because I was informed by all the smart people who are now talking about rule of law that possessing classified material on, say, a server you have in somebody's toilet is not really a crime. But apparently now it's the worst thing possible. It seems a little odd to me. Just saying.
Yeah, of course, because it only matters to the left on which party's in power. That's the real indicator as to whether or not compromising classified material is actually a threat. Depends on your political party.
Well, see, now, the thing about you, Matt, and we talk a lot, is that you're not political the way I am. Okay, I'm always involved in this stuff, and you're always involved in trying to write the very best thrillers that you can, like The Neighborhood. So, and you have to say it 7 times. You have to say The Neighborhood 7 times. That's a rule on Hugh Hewitt. But you're like a normal person. You're not involved in politics in the way a lunatic like I am. How do you feel when you see them rating the opponent of the current president, the guy who's most likely to run for president, and they're sending guys with guns to his house to go through his stuff? How does that make you feel as like a normal person?
Well, it makes me feel like if they're going to do that to the former president, then they'll do that to anyone. It's rather surreal, especially when you hear people say, "Well, this is over a document dispute," and that they had been cooperating with the DOJ. Someone, as I put out on Twitter what I heard about this, Banana Republic ain't just a clothing store anymore. Nice.
And true. I think I think among regular folks, this is a turning point. This is where people say, wait a minute. I'm not a political scientist. I was barely awake during my civics class in high school, but this isn't right at all.
No, I agree. I feel like we're living, especially the last 2 years, in some sort of alternate reality. But then as I was waiting to go on air, I turned on the news, which is always a bad thing to do.
No, don't ever do that.
Apparently they're going to the administration's going to come out after Biden gets back from his vacation and say how he's winning more than any other president and everything's going rosy and there's nothing to see here. Oh. Don't believe your lying eyes.
Oh yeah. Has inflation improved for you and your family?
Oh, definitely. It's amazing how here's a realistic example for people. We've got a dying air conditioning system, and I got a quote on it, and the company, which is a real reputable company, said, yep, basically it's $6,000 more because of the supply chain crisis and inflation. So $6,000 more thanks to this administration, and that's a hard, realistic data point I have to draw on.
Well, but I was told by the regime media that Aviator Glass's Biden was he's winning. He's doing. Yep. Aren't you excited about 87,000 new IRS agents to take on those 700 billionaires in America? I know I am.
I'm almost as excited about him as apparently people in his own party are for him running in 2024.
Oh, that's true. A lot of them are going. He's not going to run. You may not have noticed, but he's completely senile. He's crusty, and I just guys like you and I who served overseas in ugly places. I think we have a different perspective on America. I don't think we take it for granted the way a lot of these knuckleheads who've never been anywhere but college and New York City or Washington, D.C. or San Francisco do.
No, I agree. And the funny part about it, and the part that people who would disagree with me probably hate me for, is I actually want to have a debate. I've always, how reasonable I've always tried to be.
Yeah, that's one of your big faults.
Exactly. I try and be reasonable and tolerant.
Yeah, I'm against that. Yeah, no, we're not having any of that. But look, we got about 30 seconds. Tell us where we can get your newest thriller, The Neighborhood.
Anywhere books are available, especially Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, all of them. It's available in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook.
And coloring book for your fellow Marines, which is exactly nice. No, I blurbed your book. I'm a big supporter. My wife's a big fan. Go get Matthew Betley's new thriller, The Neighborhood. You will not regret, and you will not regret sticking around here for Salena Zito. Next on the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt. Don't go anywhere. Birch Gold, of course, is still a sponsor of the Hugh Hewitt Show, even when I'm off working by interviewing would-be members of Congress who are on the Republican side. Newbies, I call them. I'm out doing a roundup of newbies in Wyoming. But Birch Gold is working away every single day. Go to hughgold.com or text my name, Hugh, to 989898. That's hughgold.com. That connects you up with Birch Gold. That's who I buy my gold from. I can't give you the spot price of gold this morning because I'm not there. Kurt might be able to do that for you. But you can get everything that Birch Gold offers, all their services in a free information pack if you simply text Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 989898. Or go to hughgold.com. Birch Gold, that's who I buy my gold from. That's who you should as well. ReliefFactor.com. You're listening to Kurt Schlichter, but I want to let you know, even though I'm not there, I am up in the Cowboy State, and I'm taking my Relief Factor every single day. $19.95 gets you started on ReliefFactor.com. I talk about it 3 times in my daily show. At the bottom of the first hour when I take it, and then in hours 2 and 3 when I remind you to take it, depending on when your commute begins, because ReliefFactor.com works. It's the only supplement I've taken in 30 years of broadcasting. I've declined every other opportunity to take a supplement, and I'll tell you why. Because ReliefFactor.com actually works. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, omega. Temporary relief for the relief of minor aches and pains. Temporary support for the relief of minor aches and pains. And you can't do better than that 3-week starter pack, $19.95. Relief Factor works. You should take it every single morning like I do. And I'm here to tell you, it always works for me. I get on these airplanes. And boy, when you go from the northeast corner of the United States to the Canadian border near the west, it's actually not on the Canadian border, right? Montana's above us. I don't really know the map of the United States. I take my Relief Factor wherever I go because it works. It helps ease the troubles of traveling. It helps ease the pain of running. It helps do everything that goes with aging. And you should give it a try. Relief Factor, and come back for more Kurt Schlichter on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show is now available on TV. Go to salemnewschannel.com or download the app. You can also watch on Roku and Fire Stick. Salem News Channel, the antidote to the mainstream media.
And we are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am Kurt Schlichter, your guest host, senior columnist at townhall.com, noted trial lawyer, retired Army colonel, author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. And I am pleased to welcome one of my Pennsylvania homies, because that's where the Schlichters hail from. Salena Zito. Hi, Salena. How you doing?
Oh, good morning, Sunshine. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Look, I'm going to get right to it. You've got a new column up. It's a very important column, and it talks about the Pennsylvania Senate race. And I have been told by all the smart people in the media that Dr. Oz has zero chance. You don't see it that way, do you?
Well, no, I don't. I mean, even take out the two candidates. In Pennsylvania, zero chance for a Republican just isn't the reality in 2022. I mean, this is a state in the last two elections, despite Donald Trump not winning here in 2020, went very red down ballot. In our state, Republicans won 2 out of the 3 statewide row offices, by the way, with candidates that had zero money and nobody knew. And that's kind of a big deal in seats that Republicans haven't held for over a decade. They also won 2 congressional seats that they were supposed to lose by double digits. And state house and state Senate seats that, again, they were supposed to lose the majorities in. And then in 2021, that sort of spread red, if you will, got even larger in the municipal and judicial races across my home state. So even if you take out the 2 candidates, zero chances is just not a reality.
Well, Salena Zito, your new Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article in Travels Across Pennsylvania, Mehmet Oz looks to capture anti-elite sentiment. You're seeing that race very differently. Why are you seeing it so differently than the mainstream media folks who have totally written off Dr. Oz in favor of John Fetterman?
Well, I leave my desk.
Step 1, report.
I get out there and report, and I think that there's a lot of reporters that have bought into this mystique of John Fetterman.
Is there a mystique? He looks like Shrek.
Anyways, they've created him to be this sort of exotic character that looks like what they envision a Trump supporter looks like. Therefore, he's going to get Democrats and Trump voters. Now, Oz's biggest challenge has been he has a lot of negatives. However, he's very good on the stump. He's very compassionate and curious. Those are qualities that are appealing to a voter, in particular a swing voter. I mean, there's 3 things he has to be able to overcome in the next couple of months. He has to help self-fund. He just has to. People have this perception that if you are a celebrity, if you're not putting in your money, then why should they donate money?
That is a good point.
You have to put your own money in. You also cannot rely on entities like the RNC or the state party to do your grassroots. You have to have good Pennsylvania-based people to help get out the vote.
Is he doing that?
I have put that question to the campaign. I've not gotten an answer yet, but I only asked them last night. And finally, and most importantly, you have to have a good absentee ballot / mail-in ballot program, one that is very comprehensive, that has impact everywhere within the state. And this is how you combat a lot of holes that Republicans face when they face Democrats that are just sort of swimming in money. you have to have an absentee ballot / mail-in ballot program.
Does he have that program, Salena Zito?
Again, that's a question that I posed late last night. So stay tuned for those answers.
Real quick, Salena Zito, who is running Dr. Oz's campaign? Is it Pennsylvanians? And do you think he's going to win?
I mean, I think that this is a jump ball. I would favor the Republican in this race. I would favor Oz in this race, having seen Fetterman at the rally last Friday in Erie.
What's he like?
He's struggling. He's certainly not. I mean, he was always incredibly awkward when it came to campaigning. He was much better one-on-one. But there's an expectation that he's supposed to do these grandiose rallies.
And he's not doing it, apparently. Salena Zito, thank you very much for that insight from Pennsylvania, an insight you're not going to get from the regime media. I'm Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. We got a lot more to come, so stick around.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'm not there. I'm in Wyoming interviewing a bunch of would-be congressional candidates and members of Congress. They're actually candidates already. But my buddy Kurt Schlichter has agreed to get up early and come down to the Studio West and announce to you what actually happened at Mar-a-Lago and in the deposition. Why in the world was the president invoking the Fifth Amendment in a civil proceeding? We'll let Kurt figure that out for you. He's the actual trial lawyer. I just play one on television. Take it away, Kurt.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I am a noted trial lawyer, as Hugh noted. I'm a retired United States Army infantry colonel. I am the senior columnist at Townhall.com. You should read my new column. Modestly, I have to tell you, it's brilliant. It's called Afghanistan and the Collapse of Normal's Faith in the System. And I want you to go get my new nonfiction book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. Tells it like it is. And while you're at it, stop and get my series of conservative action novels, starting with People's Republic. There's guns, and there's shooting, and there's making fun of liberals. It's got something for everyone who's not terrible. And speaking of terrible, on Friday, the House of Representatives, who are representing mostly people in Marin County and Manhattan, they passed the IRS Expansion Act, as Hugh has dubbed it, which focuses on things that people really want in this time of inflation, which, in fact, does exist. I don't think that the American people are really psyched to have hordes of new scavengers in the form of IRS agents trying to feed off them, parasites trying to drain the lifeblood from the American economy. Nor do I think that most Americans want to give tax credits to a bunch of rich people to buy new electric cars. Now, don't get me wrong. I own Tesla stock. Thank you for making me a bunch of money. However, I don't think that's what people are really interested in. And have you noticed it's no longer the Inflation Reduction Act? It's a climate change and health and a tax fairness bill. Oh, it's nonsense. Let's start with the insanity. And when you want insanity, you find Representative Pramila Jayapal, some damn communist from Washington. Cut number one.
And it is ultimately going to lead to a reduction in overall inflation, but most importantly, to the budget that people have every single day. Inflation is like a theoretical word that economists use, but what families feel every day is the up or down of costs.
Oh, that's not probably going to help make anybody feel better.
Wait a minute. It's theoretical? Hey, lady, it cost me $100 large to go, fill up my tank. Okay? Didn't when Trump was around. I could do it for like $60. Now it's $100. That means something. That means something to real people. But what do you care about real people? You're just another communist elitist sucking up to the Georgetown set. Let's go to Barbara Lee, a reliable font of stupidity. She's on MSNBC, of course, with whoever Simone Sanders is. Cut number 5.
But also, I think what we also need to recognize is that it does reduce inflation. And I didn't realize this until we started negotiating, working on this, but 40% of inflation is fueled by fossil fuels. And so what we're doing now is moving forward quickly. I must say, not quick enough for some of us, but quickly toward, a green economy, creating good paying jobs. And I hope that our communities know that these jobs in wind and solar and all of the energy efficient jobs that are going to emerge out of this with our small minority and women owned businesses will be a real plus in terms of not only our climate, but getting our climate under control and beating back climate change in a way that has to happen because the planet is burning. But we have to make sure that our community invests and gets a bit and benefits from those resources in terms of the economic activity that's going to emerge from this.
Is there someone out there who can translate her English into English? I'm listening to that. Inflation isn't going to exist because we're going to buy a bunch of new solar panels from China, which, of course, can't be recycled and have to be thrown away after 20 years. But let's just leave that aside. And it's going to lower inflation through the power of wishing and wanting, and also climate change, which isn't a thing. And what the hell? I mean, again, and I know I keep saying this, but again and again, this raises the question, are they stupid or do they think we're stupid? Let's see what Jennifer Granholm says on CNN, of course, with whoever Brianna Keilar is.
This first of all, immediately, people will be able to lower the fuel costs in their home. There's a 30% tax credit that you can claim in 2022 for installing energy-efficient windows, heat pumps, energy-efficient appliances. That is right away. And on top of that, of course, if citizens want to install solar panels on their roofs so that they can generate their own power, that's another 30% tax credit. And, of course, there's the tax credits that are at the dealership for the automotive sector, for electric vehicles. So, and if you install an electric vehicle charging station in your home, you can also get a tax credit. So there's many ways that this bill lowers the costs for everyday citizens. And that's one of the reasons why it's anti-inflationary, is to lower the costs.
Are they stupid or do they think we're stupid? Okay. If you buy a Tesla, you have to actually buy it. And you get some tax credit for it, okay, but you're like literally buying a new car. If you are putting a solar panel on your roof, you are literally buying that. How long does it take to amortize the cost of the solar? Doesn't say. She doesn't ask. Hey, where's that going to be built anyway? China. What? China. What? China. This is the equivalent of a dumb person going, well, I had to spend $500 because it was on sale from $600. I've actually saved $100 on these new shoes. Are they stupid?
It was on sale. I had to.
It was on sale. I had to. It was the only common sense thing to do. I had to buy it. Okay. Are they stupid or do they think we're stupid? Or is it some combination of column A and column B? I don't know. No one can know. Maybe the Dalai Lama can tell us. No, this is just, I mean, how about Steny Hoyer? I like Steny Hoyer. He's on MSNBC with Reverend, you're not seeing the air quotes, but there are air quotes, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Reverend, 12. It's the biggest investment in the environment and in climate challenge in the history of the world. And it's going to make a real difference as we deal with what we clearly see
week.
As the heating of the globe.
You know, you're kind of a transphobe for pointing that out. And probably a Islamophobe, too, and a racist. I mean, biggest investment. So basically, they're taking your money and giving it to rich people to buy frivolous cars. Now, again, I've invested in Tesla. I'm very happy that you guys have made my stock go up by being stupid. You know, I am. I'm never going to short stupidity. But most people are just going to end up paying more money so rich people can get stuff. Do you think a lot of these green energy companies are run by Republicans? Do you think these big corporations that are going to make money are a bunch of conservatives? Really? I don't know. Elon Musk, maybe? No, he doesn't count as conservative. He's just sort of sui generis. Let's close it out with Nancy Pelosi because she's a genius. Nancy Pelosi, cut number 12.
How can they vote against the planet? Mother Earth. Mother Earth gets angry from time to time, and this legislation will help us address all of that.
Okay, your weird pagan stupidity is not a subject for a substitute for good policy. Okay, there is no Mother Earth, and Mother Earth does not get angry. And I say Republicans need to defund this idiocy as soon as they take over the Congress, and I think they're going to. We'll be back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Stick around. We got a lot more to come.
The Hugh Hewitt Show is now available on TV. Go to salemnewschannel.com or download the app. You can also watch on Roku and Fire Stick. Salem News Channel, the antidote to the mainstream media.
We are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, sitting in for the great Hugh Hewitt. It's my pleasure to welcome Todd Chatham of Food for the Poor. Todd, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Todd, Food for the Poor is usually working in places like Haiti or Central America. Now you're working in Ukraine. What's the situation over there?
Yeah, so Food for the Poor is a 40-year-old relief and development agency, one of the largest nonprofits in the United States. And typically we do work in Latin America and the Caribbean, but because of the scope of the humanitarian crisis in the wake of the war in Ukraine, we knew we had to respond over there. So we leveraged our partnerships and have begun sending meals to feed these displaced Ukrainian refugees.
If you're a displaced Ukrainian refugee, what do you actually get through Food for the Poor and its affiliates?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an amazing partner that has helped us provide food in the 18 countries we typically work in. And they're called Manna Packs, and they're a little baggie with rice and beans and protein supplements and things like that, high nutritious. They're actually designed to provide healthy nutrition for malnourished kids. But we're packaging these up and sending them over en masse to Ukraine. And then we've got a distribution network of about 3,500 ministers of all different denominations who are going out into the countryside in Ukraine, surrounding countries every day. And they're looking for these refugee families, usually moms and kids and the elderly. And they're getting them this food because it's one of their greatest needs right now in Ukraine.
What kind of feedback are you getting, Todd Chatham of Food for the Poor, from the meals that you're distributing?
You know, it's pretty amazing. Obviously, these are people who just 6 months ago were leading normal, peaceful lives, going to work every day and just going about their business. And then, Russia ruthlessly has invaded and destroyed their homes and their country. And they have no idea if or when they'll be able to go home, if they'll have a home to go back to. And so you can imagine the heartbreak, the despair, the hopelessness. And so, first of all, you're meeting one of their greatest foundational physical needs, which is food, but you're also encouraging them and letting them know that they're not forgotten and that brighter days are to come.
Now, Todd Chatham of Food for the Poor, I have spent time in Ukraine as a United States Army officer. I trained Ukrainian soldiers. I think I've been over there 4 times. And let's be frank, it's perhaps one of the most corrupt places on earth. How do you vet your partners so that folks donating to Food for the Poor, and you can do that at the HughHewitt.com website. There's a Food for the Poor banner at the top, and I urge you to get it. But how can people be sure that their money is going directly to people and not getting siphoned off somewhere, as often happens in that part of the world?
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's something we deal with in countries like Haiti and Central America as well. So 40 years of doing this, we've just figured out great partners that aren't corrupt, partners that are going to distribute the food with the greatest of efficiency. And that's the case in our Ukraine effort as well. We're partnering on the ground over there with a faith-based organization called Mission Eurasia, and they're taking the food that we send over there and they're getting it into the hands, like I said, of these ministers that are taking this out. And interestingly enough, sadly, the Mission Eurasia headquarters was actually bombed out during the war. So they're doing this with no, foundational headquarters or facilities to speak of. But that's how committed they are to this mission of caring for the people of Ukraine, these displaced families.
Now, you guys at Food for the Poor have done these kind of operations all over the world. But is this the first time you've done it in a place that's actively under fire?
Yeah, I mean, Food for the Poor, typically, again, our theater of operation is Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is an entire new theater of operation. So, when we decided to respond to this historic humanitarian crisis, we didn't take the decision lightly. And thankfully, we had partners like Mission Eurasia that had been working there for a long time. So we basically, can take the food and get it to them. But I'll be clear, it's the Mission Eurasia partnerships. They are the ones taking fire. These are ministers going out every day, putting their lives on the line to get this food to these desperate families. But, we can't do it without generous donations from people here back at home that give anything from 25 cents to $2,500 and send a meal to Ukraine. Kurt, it only takes 25 cents to send one meal through our program.
Well, thank you, Todd Chatham of Food for the Poor. Please go to HughHewitt.com, make a tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Help Ukraine banner on Hugh's website. I'm Kurt Schlichter. We'll be right back with Congressman Lee Zeldin on the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
The perfect bumper music for our next guest here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, retired United States Army colonel, senior columnist at Townhall, author of the new nonfiction book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. I am joined by the Republican nominee for governor in the great state of New York. He's back in the New York groove. He's also in the House of Representatives, Representative Lee Zeldin. How you doing, Representative Zeldin?
I'm doing great, Kurt. Good to be with you.
Well, it's nice to have another Army colonel on board with me. We field grades need to hang together, and if we don't hang together, we're certainly going to hang apart. Before we get to talk about the New York governor race and how we can help you out, let's talk about what happened last week. What is the feeling in the House of Representatives about this outrageous attack on President Biden's most likely political opponent by an arm of the federal government?
Oh, it's outrage coming from all over the country. And what's interesting is not just people who are strong supporters of President Trump. It's coming from people who are saying, hey, listen, I don't support President Trump, and they're expressing outrage. So I think the biggest mistake here, really miscalculating the blowback of the average American, not the partisan, never Trumper who gives impunity, ends justify the means, whatever you need to do to torture President Trump as much as possible, which is, by the way, a shrinking minority right now of our country, because the average American moves on and they care about inflation and our border and illegal immigration and more. I think that they really underestimated just how large the majority would be of Americans who would say this does not pass any type of a smell test. And they're really turning their ire towards the DOJ and FBI and the Biden administration on this.
Well, Representative Lee Zeldin, you of course, are a member of the House of Representatives and the Republican caucus, which hopes to grow in November, and I think it's very likely that we will take the House while you take the governorship in Albany. What are the other Republican congressmen saying, particularly the soft ones? Because there are a lot of soft ones who are, well, we need to see what the facts are, and of course there are no facts that would justify any of this. What is the feeling within the caucus?
Well, I mean, I've heard a lot of members speaking out with outrage. I'm not hearing much from the Democrats at all. As a matter of fact, to the extent you do hear anything from congressional Democrats, they're helping to provide cover for this decision without them having any of the facts. They've signed on to that and justify the means approach here. There needs to be an outcry by everybody who is going to be part of. I believe that there will be a Republican majority in Congress come January. And for that voter who's out there, they want to know that things are going to be different, that this is actually going to be a check and balance on another branch of government, that it's not going to be a go-along to get along approach, that if you change the gavel of the House Judiciary Committee from Jerry Nadler to Jim Jordan, Americans want to know, what are you going to get for that? And whether it relates to Hunter Biden and all of that scandal regarding the Biden administration, or it's what we saw play out last week, Americans want to know that with that power entrusted upon you, that you are going to provide that check and balance. So I think it's incumbent on everyone to speak truth to power here and call it out for what it is here, which so far does not pass any smell test.
Well, Representative Lee Zeldin, before we get to your candidacy for governor in New York, I got to point out that, out here in the hinterlands, a lot of us are greatly disappointed with the Republican leadership and its failure to aggressively push back. How can we be sure that they're going to do this? Now, you understand that they need to, but, should we believe that this time it's going to happen?
I have known Jim Jordan for many, many years. I am confident with Jim Jordan as chairman of the House Judiciary Committee that he would do absolutely everything in his power to make Kurt satisfied that he is holding this administration accountable. It's there's a responsibility incumbent upon more than just Jim Jordan here, but that's going to be a pretty powerful shift in that balance of power inside of the House of Representatives with control of the House Judiciary Committee changing over. And I think that other members need to take notes, talk to Congressman Jordan, and in many respects follow his lead, because he and his team are very sharp, astute, and strong when it comes to this.
Well, Congressman Zeldin, you are running for governor in the Empire State. You're governor there, and you and I have kind of a disagreement over whose governor is worse. Mine's Governor Hairstyle here in California. Yours is just an atrocity in New York. But let's put aside who has the worst governor. They both have to go. Are you going to be able to take her out in a blue state?
I'm not in this race to come in second. We're campaigning our tails off. I'm actually heading right now back into New York City. I've been campaigning a lot with a lot of Democratic groups. Now that November 8th is getting closer, we've found more and more and more opportunities to be able to do that. And whether it was yesterday marching in the Dominican Day Parade in Manhattan, or I was in the Jamaican Jerk Festival in Queens, or with the Jewish voters in Brighton Beach and Kew Garden Hills and Flushing, and the Asian voters in Chinatown and Sunset Park in Brooklyn. Inside of New York City, we need 29% of the vote, and there actually are conservative pockets inside of New York City. Staten Island, Brighton Beach, Bay Ridge, Middle Village, and elsewhere. And then there's also that coalition-building effort. New York City is very diverse, and I have found that a lot of Republicans have not gone into these communities in a long time. And I've also found that Democrats don't spend enough time there either. And my message to these voters are don't let anybody take your vote for granted. I'm finding when I talk to them, they care about crime and public safety, the economy, freedom, the quality of education in our schools. They align very much with conservative principles, but we have to show up, and that's why we're working so hard to get it done. Again, I'm not in this race to come in second. I'm feeling good about where this is heading right now, but we can't take anything for granted. And for anybody out there anywhere in America who thinks that this is about jumping on some board to ride in a wave, that is not this moment. We have to create the wave by working hard.
Well, how can we help you, Congressman Zeldin?
Zeldinfornewyork.com, ZELDINFOR. It's all one word, Zeldinfornewyork.com. And we're on social media. People can sign up to volunteer. You can donate $5. You can sign up for our weekly updates, get involved in the conversation on social media. We're across all different kinds of social media platforms. We need everybody to be engaged. New York has 62 counties. We have some very red counties. We have some very blue counties. And purple. We need everybody everywhere to help. Tell everyone you know. And across this country, anybody who's eligible to vote, tell them it's not just your right to vote. This is your duty to vote. This is your obligation, your responsibility. We need all people who think like us to get involved in this race and not sit it out.
Now, Congressman Zeldin, I think that the most underreported story of this cycle is a political story. Is not whether or not Trump will run or whether Republicans are ahead or behind. It is the shift in Hispanic American voters to the right, to the Republican Party. This, I think, is a game changer. The Democrats were relying on a permanent Hispanic voter pool, and Hispanic Americans are just saying, wait, we like family, flag, and freedom. We're finding a home in the Republican Party. Are you seeing that in New York?
We will win the Hispanic vote in New York. And yesterday...
Wow, that's a bold statement.
We will win the Hispanic vote in New York. When I was at the Dominican Day Parade in New York City yesterday, I had a very similar experience than from when I was at the Dominican Day Parade in the Bronx a couple weeks ago. And when I marched in the route, there would be people on the side, because we have the signs, Zeldin for governor, and people would give the thumbs up and they would say, I'm voting for you. And one might think that that's just in a way a greeting because they see that I'm running for
New Yorkers are famously not necessarily polite when they don't like someone. So if they actually say, I'm going to vote for you, you can probably take it to the bank.
Well, I'll tell you what was really striking was when I was going to the side And I did this again yesterday, and I noticed this first a couple weeks ago when I was at the Dominican Day Parade in the Bronx. When I was going to the side and actually engaging with all these people, as soon as I walked over there, they were talking about Jose Alba, the guy who's the bodega worker who was slapped with a murder charge and sent to Rikers Island by Alvin Bragg. They're talking about anti-cashless bail, anti-Kathy Hochul. They were fired up, they were informed, they were engaged, and it was a pretty big sign that we are definitely going in the right direction with this group.
Representative Lee Zeldin, obviously you are monitoring the situation. You're a Army intel officer, so of course you're looking at metrics. What do the polls say, and what's your strategy for taking this seat taking the State House in November?
Most recent poll that came out was the New York Post a few days ago, and it showed an 8-point gap, 48-40. What we found is that Kathy Hochul's favorability number is just stuck. She just does not become any more popular with each passing day. But what does happen is that people who don't like her, the people who don't approve of the job she's doing, people who feel like the state is heading in the wrong direction, that these numbers are increasing. Biden's numbers are worse. People who feel like the country is in the wrong direction, that number gets higher. We just need to keep working hard.
Well, that's great news. How can we help you? We got about 5 seconds.
Zeldin for New York. Great to be with you.
Thank you, Representative Lee Zeldin, Army Colonel. And I'm Colonel Kurt Schlichter, retired, here singing for the great Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt. Don't go anywhere. Kurt Schlichter sitting in for me. I think he slept on a cot in the studio last night, and he's taken all the books out. All the wiring is gone. He says he can get a pretty good price for it up in L.A., and so that's when I know I know the law business is sometimes a little bit slow, but Kurt, please put it back. And we tried to improve the lighting on him. Last time we had raccoon eyes, and the guys at the Salem News Channel told me that wasn't good. That was done by my direction. I try and make Kurt look like Darth Vader coming aboard the starship. But actually, he's a happy guy. He's really a happy guy. People don't believe it. He's been out there talking to you. He gets more donations for Food for the Poor, the refugees in Ukraine. And I was talking to Tom Chattah about it last week. And he said, does Kurt like to do Food for the Poor? I said, Kurt loves doing Food for the Poor. He loves asking people for money. It's so different from his soldier persona. But in fact, people who've seen war, who've seen riot, who have served in uniform, know what it is to see people displaced by violence. And they are the ones who respond the best. So I'm glad to have Colonel Kurt in on Monday and Tuesday. And I forgot to tell you about ReliefFactor.com. I don't want you to forget to take it. I took it with me to Wyoming. I take it for a reason. People try and pull tricks on me, even when I'm interviewing future Congress people. Hey, have you got your Relief Factor with you? And I've always got it in my sport coat. And I take it everywhere I go because I don't want to miss a day and I don't want to fall behind. It's been a week since I've been out on the hilly, rolly Beach to Beacon 10K. And that by Wednesday last week, I was fine again, and I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to run in Wyoming. I don't know. Cattle are out there in the streets. I don't know. But ReliefFactor.com went with me anyway, and it ought to go with you wherever you go. $19.95 is the starter pack. I hector you every day to remember to take it. I'm like also probably other people's reminder alarm clock to take whatever else their daily medication is. But for me, it's ReliefFactor.com, $19.95, the only place you can get it, ReliefFactor.com. And come back for more Kurt Schlichter on the Sitting In, the Hugh Hewitt Show.
If you become a member of the Hugh-niverse, you not only get every previous Hugh Hewitt show, you get the after show, the best podcast you've never heard. www.hughniverse.com.
We're back, shaking you all night long. And, of course, it is Dark 30 here in the Relief Factor studio in Southern California. I get up at like 1 a.m. to bring this to you. Who am I? I am Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Townhall.com, author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, and the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, starting with People's Republic. I'm a retired United States Army colonel and a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, and I like to think of myself as a patriot. Although liberals may contest that on the days that they like America, as opposed to the days they don't. You need a program to track where they like America or not, whether they're for democracy or not, whether they want a republic or not. It's not consistent, folks. But hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't listen to them. Here's somebody you should listen to, the great Victor David Hansen. He's on Fox, and he's a little worried. Cut 16.
Well, I don't think we're a republic anymore. I would say that we're in a transition to a radical democracy. And by that I mean that what anybody wants to do on any given day, if they have the power or the votes, they do it. So we don't respect immigration law. If people in the administration want to get rid of it and make the border open, they do it. If you want to have a warrant for a particular FBI operation, you can find a judge and you do it. So what I'm getting at, Mark, is if you have an agenda and you feel you have elected power, you don't respect any guardrails or prohibitions that constitutional republic set up to prevent the abuse of power. So on any given day, this administration can do what they want, and that's how they operate. I mean, to use an ancient example, if they want to kill Socrates on Monday, they can do it and say it's legal. If they want to go to the island of Mytilene and butcher everybody on Tuesday, they can, and Wednesday they can change their mind, they don't want to do it. So I don't see that the Constitution that was, as it was envisioned to prevent these hysterias, these outbreaks of craziness, and the founders knew that they would occur. I don't think that it's working right now to stop it. So we have a mass hysteria. I don't know what the cause was, maybe George Floyd's aftermath, maybe the quarantine, maybe long-term takeovers of our major institutions, but we're in a revolutionary situation. So we've got on one hand the January 6th committee. It's kind of like the Committee of Public Safety in the French Revolution. It's out to destroy a particular person, Donald Trump, and I think Dick Cheney more or less made that clear when he made that commercial for his daughter, that she's not there to adjudicate in a disinterested fashion what happened, but to go after and destroy a political rival or political candidate. So yeah, I think we're in a revolutionary period right now, and I don't know how long it's going to go on until we stop it and bring back constitutional guardrails and protocol.
That was Victor Davis Hansen on Fox with Mark Levin, and he makes a lot of sense, folks. This stuff is dangerous. You think that you can just sort of change the rules when they become inconvenient, but then the rules are going to be there for you when you need them. The rules, the norms, the customs, they're there to protect the weak, not the strong. And that's the problem. For people without the strength, rules are what keep them safe, what keep them free. Now, the alternative to the rule of law is the rule of power, and that's frankly the natural state of man. What we have here, or had, the rule of law, that was what we aspired to, and very few places achieved it. We achieved it for a while. But the rule of power means the strong win. What's Chairman Mao say about power? He says power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Are the people who are now dispensing with the rule of law by, for example, sending armed men to raid the residence of their boss's likely political opponent in the next election, Are these guys, they sure they want to go down that road? Because if it's the rule of power, all bets are off. You don't get to decide, okay, status quo, temporary suspended, now it's back. No, that's not how it works. It can't be how it's worked. Are you people absolutely ahistorical? Do you have no knowledge of what happened before you were born? Do you have no knowledge of human nature? Why would you think you can continually pull blocks out of the Jenga tower that is America and that it'll never collapse? And when it does collapse, are you sure you're going to be on top? Because I look around at people in San Francisco, New York, and Washington, D.C., I don't see a lot of guns. If you want the rule of power, that's what you're talking about. Oh, that's crazy talk, Kurt. Is it? Because I've been to places where they tried that. It didn't work. Don't do it. Embrace the Constitution. Embrace the rule of law. This is the Hugh Hewitt Radio Program. I'm Christos Kurt Schlichter. Stick around. We got more to come.
Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning Glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'm not there. I'm in Wyoming interviewing a bunch of would-be congressional candidates and members of Congress. They're actually candidates already. But my buddy Kurt Schlichter has agreed to get up early and come down to the Studio West and announce to you what actually happened at Mar-a-Lago and in the deposition. Why in the world was the president invoking the Fifth Amendment in a civil proceeding? We'll let Kurt figure that out for you. He's the actual trial lawyer. I just play one on television. Take it away, Kurt.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. I am Kurt Schlichter, guest host here at the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am a senior columnist at Townhall.com. I'm a retired United States Army colonel of infantry. I am also the author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, and the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels. I am also a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. Now, I get around, folks. I'm always traveling. I think I've traveled 5 weekends in a row. I got one more as part of my book tour for We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. And at CPAC, I met somebody special. And then I had a chance to talk to her again just this weekend when I was at the Basque Fry near Reno, Nevada, supporting Adam Laxalt. Got to tell you about the Basque Fry. It kind of had lamb testicles. That is an entree. And, of course, my guest here is running for Attorney General in the great state of Nevada. It's Sigal Chattah. And, Sigal, I'm very glad to have you on the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Thank you so much for having me, Kurt, bright and early.
Okay, what is this a Nevada thing? What's with the lamb testicles?
You know, first of all, it's called lamb fries. We don't want to give away. We have to kind of sugarcoat what you're really eating.
Sounds like the mainstream media.
Right. But it's a Basque delicacy.
Well, look, I tried it. I took the risk, and I assume I get a prize or something. Now, you're running for Attorney General in the great state of Nevada, and right now the Democrats have a lock on the state government. How is your campaign going?
Campaign's going good. It's a fight. It is definitely a fight. The Dems have a ton of money that's coming in. They have a ton of Soros money. Soros is playing very heavy in Nevada, and they're campaigning on this progressive ideology, and they want to make Nevada as progressive as California is.
Well, Sigal, first of all, if people want to help you, and we'll bring this up again, but how can people help you if they want to assist you in winning the Attorney General office in Nevada?
They could go on my website and see what I'm all about and contribute there. It's Chattah for Nevada. It's CHATTAH for Nevada, spelled out, and that is .com.
Now, Sigal, it is. First of all, you've got kind of an interesting life story. Can you kind of sketch it out for the folks so they know a little more about you?
Yeah, so I was born in Israel, raised in Israel, moved to Las Vegas when I was 14 years old, and have been there ever since, and went to law school back east, came back, studied abroad in Switzerland for a little bit, and came back to Vegas, which was my home, and have been practicing. My practice has mostly been civil litigation and complex civil litigation and white-collar criminal defense. And so it's been a fun ride in the private sector for 2 decades.
Well, as someone who's got experience in the criminal justice system, what do you make of this FBI raid on President Biden's #1 political opponent?
Oh, I think it's horrible. I think it's absolutely horrible. I mean, they have completely disregarded, search and seizure policies in the Constitution, and it's just absolutely atrocious to see this happen. And I think this administration is constantly pushing the envelope on what they could get away with constitutional limits, and it should be a concern for every private citizen in this country.
Well, Sigal Chattah, running for Attorney General in the great state of Nevada. I looked at the warrant, and I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I looked at the warrant, and I from law school, I had an understanding you're supposed to be very specific about what you're looking for, and they're saying all documents created between January 2017 and the present, and I mean, wow. That's a bit broad. Would as someone defending the accused, would you stand for that, or would you move to exclude all this evidence as overbroad?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's so clear, and it's in plain English in the Constitution. No search warrant shall be issued without specificity as the place to be searched and the items to be seized. Saying 4 years of documents is not specific, especially when we've got issues like executive privilege that we're dealing with.
And attorney-client privilege.
And attorney-client privilege. There's so many different privileges that could be invoked. My concern, though, is that really assuming that we could get to the point of suppression of, what was seized. But at the end of the day, I don't know that with this specific witch hunt that we could really even get a neutral magistrate or a neutral judge to really look at the evidence and suppress it based on the Constitution.
Are you saying that Epstein's former lawyer, who who has anti-Trump posts, who is now the magistrate, might not be unbiased?
Well, exactly, and that's the growing concern. And here's the thing: people think that this is just going to be an isolated incident against, a hunted president. But ultimately, if we see these things on the federal level, we're going to see them on the state levels. And Kurt, let me give you an example. In Nevada, the criminal trials were suspended for a year in the state during COVID. And my concern was that obviously this is a huge violation of the Sixth Amendment right to speedy trial. And, and everybody was kind of bumbling along. Well, we have a pandemic, but wait a minute, you have a right to speedy trial. And
yes.
That's the most egregious, prosecutorial misconduct that has ever happened in this history of Nevada. And I know many states did the same thing. So these are an isolated incident. And as lawyers, what we do, we look at things from the totality of the circumstances. Today, it's the President of the United States. A couple of years ago, they suspended criminal trials. And the way this country is going, I don't like it. This is not the America my parents brought me to.
Sigal Chattah, running for Attorney General in the great state of Nevada. The Attorney General of New York has been on what's frankly, and she basically says so, a witch hunt / fishing expedition against Donald Trump. And he was recently deposed, and he took the Fifth Amendment. He refused to testify. Why is the Fifth? Now, as conservatives, many of us are supposedly reflexively law and order, but as conservative as we are. Isn't the right to not incriminate yourself, particularly in what is manifestly a bogus investigation, a critical part of our framework of freedoms?
Absolutely. In 20 years that I've done criminal defense, I could probably count on probably less than a dozen times where I've ever had a client testify in a criminal case. Any civil cases that I've represented, look, and Kurt, I've represented everything from judges to organized crime, and never have I subjected them, even in civil cases, to depositions. We've suspended discovery in civil cases, and precisely because of that, you do not want to have your client sitting in a deposition or responding to interrogatories or anything like that that could potentially incriminate him. And the Fifth Amendment is for us to use. People draw this insinuation that, he pled the Fifth. Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way if the president was my client.
Absolutely. The Founding Fathers knew what they were doing when they gave every American citizen the right not to testify against himself or herself. Sigal, Chattah, we've got about 30 seconds. How can we help you get elected in the great state of Nevada as its newest Attorney General?
Please go to my website at chattahfornevada.com. You can look me up, Sigal Chattah, Sigal. Last name is Chattah. I would love to have everybody's support. We need to flip Nevada red. It's one of the most important states.
Well, absolutely, and for being out there, speaking to the crowd along with Adam Laxalt and others. Ted Cruz was there. I think we're going to do it. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. We got more to come.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
We are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, and the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative novels. That is Jason and the Scorchers, Telling White Lies, a great rockin' song. You know I'm here. You know it's Kurt when the bumper music is the attraction. Let's slow it down for a second before I get on to the white lies of the Democrats and their media minions. Let's talk about helping out people in need. As we start this week, we are right at the halfway point in Hugh's Summertime Food for the Poor campaign. So far, men and women just like you have made very generous donations, and we're about 35% of Hugh's initial goal. You're helping feed many, many children who are refugees from the war in Ukraine. Just go to HughHewitt.com, click on the Help Ukraine banner to make a tax-deductible gift in any amount. And I'd like you to hear the impact that your gifts are making. Listen to this pastor distributing emergency food on the ground in Ukraine. He's speaking through an interpreter.
Спасибо вам. Дякую. Yeah, he says thank you. You know, it's a famous Ukrainian kind of greeting. So. But you see, this what's happening here almost 24/7. You know, they bring children here, they bring moms. You know, so they get food here, and it's all happening here around this church. You know, so the church becomes like a lighthouse of hope for these devastated families.
Let's keep the momentum going as we kick off this new week. So right now, please go to HughHewitt.com. Make that tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Help Ukraine banner on Hugh's website. Your one-time gift in any amount will bless a hungry child at HughHewitt.com. If you prefer, you can also call with your gift, 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE to help our friends at Food for the Poor. Now, I mentioned lies. I mentioned deceit. I mentioned deception. Let's see how South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds handled it on Meet the Press with Andrea Mitchell. Cut number 14.
Given that they did take all of this material, boxes of material and classified documents as well, and given how casual he was about securing documents, that's been well established when he was president, do you think that should disqualify him from being president again? And would you vote for him if he runs?
I'll keep my powder dry with regards to your last question. I think right now we're going to focus on the 2022 election. We want to retake the House. We definitely want to retake the United States Senate. And I think in doing that, and our goal is to focus on what's going on right now with the American people. We're going to focus on the fact that inflation is still over 8.5%. We're still talking about GDP, which has been going down. And as you know, sharing breakfast with the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, anytime you've got 2 quarters in a row, you are in a recession. We want to see us get out of that recession. And most certainly we want to see gas prices come down. They're still $1.50 higher than when Joe Biden took office. Those are not good policies to run on for Democrats. We need to focus on that. And as we get past that and get into the 2024, I think the Republican will be well positioned. But let's get past the 2022 election first.
And we're not in a recession yet, but we'll wait and see what does happen. And we really want to thank you. It's very good that you came on today.
Two quarters tell you differently than that.
Not that's out of date.
Thanks. Out of date.
Even according to Republican economists. In any case, when we come back, how much legal jeopardy does former President Trump face?
Wow.
I'll talk to two of our top legal experts to break it all down when we return.
That's Candy Crowley, folks. Except Mike Rounds wasn't as submissive as Mitt Romney was. When the moderator decided to stop moderating and start advocating. Well, see, it's not a recession. This is not a recession. Why not? Because it's inconvenient to my master, Joe Biden. Because my job as a regime journalist is to shrimp the toes of the narrative, to suck up and to obey, and I will do that eagerly and gladly. Because it's just pathetic. If you're going to go on enemy media, and that's what Meet the Press is, it's enemy media, at least do what Mike Rounds is and laugh at them. He kind of laughs at it. He's like, oh, yeah, 2 quarters of negative growth, not a recession. Sure thing, Andrea. Genius. Hey, we got more to come here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Stick around. More coming up.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. And, of course, that's The Pretenders with Show Me. And what better lead-in to the candidate for the United States Senate from the Show Me state? Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Eric Schmitt, is joining us. Attorney General Schmitt, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Great to be with you again, Kurt.
Boy, we got so much to talk about because you've been very active lately as Attorney General, but you're also running for the Senate seat. Let's get a little update on the status of that race, which we were a little concerned about because one of your opponents, Eric Greitens, might have actually lost. We think we think you've got a really good shot of winning. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, we came out of the primary, a 21 candidate field, the largest in Missouri history for the Senate, and won by 24 points, and felt really good about our showing, and our message was pretty consistent and isn't going to change, by the way, from the primary to the general, which is people want a proven fighter right now to go to Washington. That's been my record as Attorney General. We need reinforcements in D.C. right now to save America. There's so much on the line. The left, the Democrats are 2 votes away. By the way, and those votes are up for grabs all the time between Manchin and Sinema, but they're 2 votes away from packing the court and adding states to the union and federalizing our elections and having open borders and amnesty. I mean, the left, they are playing for keeps, Kurt, and we need proven people who are going to go up there and not back down and fight back. And, again, that's what I've been doing as AG, and I think that's what the people want as their next senator from Missouri.
Well, Attorney General Eric Schmitt, again, running in the great state of Missouri for the Senate seat. Is your former opponents in the race? You have a couple of representatives, and you have Eric Greitens. Are they all jumping on the Schmitt bandwagon and helping out?
Yeah, I mean, by and large, we've gotten I got calls from Hartzler and from Billy Long and from everybody else who's been very supportive. And I think we're rolling into this general election now with a lot of momentum. I'm running against an heiress who's trying to buy the Senate seat. And interestingly, she's from, her last name's Bush Valentine. My dad worked at Anheuser-Busch actually 7 days a week in the midnight shift. I grew up in college giving tours on the property, Grant's Farm, that she grew up on, and taking out the trash. And we need a little bit more of that in D.C. So it's quite the contrast here by background, but also, and even more importantly, on the issues. I mean, my opponent will be a rubber stamp, yes, for all this radical stuff that's happening in D.C. right now for Chuck Schumer. And we've got to hold on to Missouri. It's a 50-50 Senate. There's no margin for error. We have to win this seat. I feel like we're in a really good position to go do that. And then you look at the map, and we got to flip, a seat here or there to take the majority back. And by the way, not just get the majority, Kurt, but do something with it. And push back, cut taxes, go after, I said earlier last week that I'm going to take a wrecking ball to the administrative state. That's what we need to do. These unelected bureaucrats have gotten way too powerful. They're not accountable to anybody. It's offensive to our form of government, self-government, which is based on the idea of accountability. And again, we just need people who are going to go in there and be unafraid.
Well, Attorney General Eric Schmitt in Missouri, how can our people help you get elected and take back the Senate?
Well, look, these races in many ways are all sort of national, right? When you look at that map, and it's 50-50, you got to hold on to these seats. So the best way is for people to go. They can contribute on our website or sign up at Schmitt for Senate, SCHMITTFOR Senate.com, SchmittForSenate.com. You can follow me on the Twitter machine and the Facebooks and all that good stuff. But going to the website and helping out is the best way. It's going to be an expensive race. There's no doubt about it. The Democrats are they're coming after all these seats, and we got to make sure we hold on to Missouri. And again, like I said, have a America First fighter up there who's going to take on these big important issues.
Well, you have been taking them on as Attorney General for the great state of Missouri. Recently, you had a close encounter with the FBI where you told them back off. Tell us a little about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, this agency, by the way, through the Department of Justice, has been totally politicized and weaponized. I mean, you look at, obviously what happened last week at President Trump's private residence. You look at what happened with weaponizing and going after parents who had the gall to show up to school board meetings, going after them under the Patriot Act as domestic terrorists. You know, they look the other way when it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop. Now you got IRS agents fanning across the country. I mean, like I said, the Administrative State's out of control. But in this specific instance, the FBI notified local sheriffs that they were going to come in and conduct an audit of their concealed carry permit.
Oh, wait, hold on, Attorney General Schmitt. I'm just a simple city trial lawyer from Los Angeles. I don't remember anything in the Constitution that gives the FBI or any federal agency the right to audit not even a state function, but a local function like concealed carry permits. What the heck?
They don't have it. And by the way, there's a specific Missouri law on this point. A few years ago, there was some concern that Barack Obama was attempting to create a national registry. The Missouri legislature, and I was there when it happened, passed a law specifically saying that no one has access to this information except for that local elected sheriff. In the meantime, Missouri has also passed, and I'm defending in court, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which is a landmark Second Amendment, piece of legislation. So when we got wind of this, some sheriffs let us know. We fired immediately back a letter to the FBI saying, look, this is in violation of Missouri law. This is not going to happen in Missouri. We've lost trust in the agency. This is another example of why that's happening, and it's not, you shall not pass here in Missouri. So we took a stand, and they just have no business doing this. And I would imagine this is going to be happening in other states because I think on the Second Amendment front, Kurt, they're reeling after the Supreme Court loss. We led the briefing on the New York pistol and rifle case, which made it very clear that people have a right to defend themselves, not only in their homes but outside their homes. You have to prove to a bureaucrat you're in danger. And so here they go. They're trying to figure out who's got concealed carry permits for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. They're not allowed to do it, and we're pushing back.
Well, Attorney General Eric Schmitt, as Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the great state of Missouri, what do you make of Joe Biden sending armed people to the home of his political rival, his primary political rival, with a warrant, and air quotes, of such broadness that it's actually stunning? What do you think about that?
It's unprecedented. It's unreal, and it literally is out of it's Banana Republic stuff. It's third world country. If our State Department was aware that this was happening in another country, they would let everybody know that there's something wrong with this, right? But it's happening right now in the United States of America. Merrick Garland is targeting, and Joe Biden are targeting political enemies. This is dangerous stuff. And every American, regardless of your political stripe, ought to be very concerned about this. I mean, we're a country that was founded basically rebelling against this kind of, these sort of actions from people who are not accountable. And you look at the Bill of Rights and the protections that are in there. I mean, part of this was a reaction, of course, to the abuses that were happening at the highest levels of government. Now we see it happening here. And it's not just what happened last week with President Trump. I mentioned a few others, going after parents, not going after Hunter Biden. Now you got the IRS, 87,000 more of them, fanning them across. We found a job posting where they're asking for armed IRS agents. I mean, this stuff is scary. And we got to, again, why this election cycle is so important. In the meantime, we have to push back with everything we got.
Well, Attorney General Schmitt, look, people are very, very concerned about this FBI abuse. It is against everything America stands for, and there are people saying that we need to defund and disestablish and dismantle the FBI, take its appropriate counterintelligence functions, put it somewhere else, take its law enforcement functions, put it somewhere else. Do you believe the FBI is broken beyond repair, and that's what the Republicans ought to do when they take power? Refuse to fund it as is?
That it's been weaponized in politics are a big part of decisions at the highest level. And I think to your point, when we get in power, we need to have Iran-Contra-like, wall-to-wall, 7 day a week hearings on this kind of stuff. And not just the Department of Justice, but also bring in Anthony Fauci, bring that guy back in, figure out, the gain-of-function research angle. We've never gotten to the bottom of the coronavirus out of China. The lies that the CDC initiated with forced masking. Let's pick the top 10 biggest issues. This January 6th stuff is just a distraction from Joe Biden's failures. Let's pick these real issues, and let's get serious people to ask these people serious questions and hold them accountable. That hasn't happened, and the American people are clamoring for that.
Well, one thing, Attorney General Schmitt, let me give you a suggestion. Here's a little idea. We have seen people lie to the face of senators in Washington, D.C., and, of course, they're not charged because the justice system in Washington, D.C. is absolutely broken. Democrats don't get charged. Republicans always get convicted, whether they're guilty of anything or not. My thought is the American people need to see this oversight, and that you might consider taking this show on the road. So I think it would be much more interesting to see a Senate hearing and testimony by these bureaucrats, say on the road in Missouri, and issue the subpoenas for there. So if they perjure themselves or are held in contempt of Congress, they can be held responsible in those venues. What do you think? And we got about 10 seconds.
No, I love it. I love it. And American people deserve these kinds of answers, and pulling it out of a Washington, D.C. centric venue makes a lot of sense. I love it.
How do we support you?
SchmittForSenate.com. SchmittForSenate.com.
Eric Schmitt, Attorney General of Missouri, running for Senate. You've got to get out there and turn out for him, folks. I'm Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. We will be right back.
Hi, it's Hugh. Don't go anywhere, America. I want to remind you, AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com, 888-888-1172. While I am out west interviewing would-be members of Congress, Republicans who are running for Congress in front of a Republican audience, it's really interesting for me to find the people who might be the next generation of superstars and interview them before anyone else knows they exist. I want you to remember Andrew and Todd continue to exist and continue to service your mortgage. They are lenders with the Air Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. I don't know if Kurt Schlichter has used them. I know that everyone else on my team has, and I know that I have, and I know that my entire family has. And by use them, I mean finance the purchase of a new home or a second home, or get a refinance. Or if you're a senior and you want to get money out of your house, that reverse mortgage, that's AndrewandTodd.com, 888-888-1172. And while I have your attention, I took my ReliefFactor.com already this morning. You heard that in the first hour. Thousands of you, tens of thousands actually, of my listeners take it every single morning. Occasionally someone comes up to me and says, it didn't work for me. I got this pain. I hear it. I understand. It's not foolproof. It's nature's anti-inflammatory medicine cabinet. It is not a magic wand. But what you do take, if you take it every day, is you take nature's anti-inflammatories. Carrion, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. Stuff that helps you in many different ways, but especially with aging, with the aches and pains that come with exercise and aging. $19.95 gets you started on ReliefFactor.com. I talk about it 3 times in my daily show. At the bottom of the first hour when I take it, and then in hours 2 and 3 when I remind you to take it, depending on when your commute begins, because ReliefFactor.com works. It's the only supplement I've taken in 30 years of broadcasting. I've declined every other opportunity to take a supplement, and I'll tell you why. Because ReliefFactor.com actually works. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, temporary support for the relief of minor aches and pains, and you can't do better than that 3-week starter pack, $19.95. ReliefFactor.com works. I want to make sure that Kurt Schlichter doesn't take all the bags of Relief Factor out of Studio West, but he'll be back right after this. Stay tuned to The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show is now available on TV. Go to SalemNewsChannel.com or download the app. You can also watch on Roku and Fire Stick. Salem News Channel, the antidote to the mainstream media.
We are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. This is guest host Kurt Schlichter, author of We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, and the Kelly Turnbull series of action-packed conservative novels. And, of course, senior columnist at Townhall.com. I'm wrapping it up today with little Tom Petty, who, he's a great rocker, but as part of my continuing debate with producer Dwayne Patterson, Tom Petty is not the equal of the Replacements.
He's far superior.
No, he's not. He's second tier compared to the Replacements.
You're just out
I'm
of
just
your
saying
mind.
that's how good the Replacements are. That Tom Petty literally can't hold a candle to him, yet he is a quality
A candle.
A candle.
Can he hold a rosary bead?
Crackpot, a rosary bead, an assault rosary bead.
Did you see that story out in the Atlantic this weekend?
Yes, the Atlantic says rosary beads are the new.
Go ahead,
read
I've
that
got it
thing.
here. This is from the Atlantic.
This
is
is
from
great.
a writer named Daniel Paniton. This happened over the weekend. How the rosary became an extremist symbol. The AR-15 is a sacred object among Christian nationalists. Now, quote, radical, traditional, end quote, Catholics are bringing a sacrament of their own to the movement. Assault beads.
Assault beads in 3.16 caliber.
Apparently, 3.16 caliber. Yes,
So
that's exactly right.
That's a Jesus joke for you heathens.
So that's exactly the way to win people over to your side.
Got it.
Just basically marginalize all Christians.
Well, we'll try to. I don't think we're being marginalized anymore. I don't think we're taking it anymore. I have a new column up, and it's called Afghanistan Has Woken Up the Normals, or words to that effect. It's on Townhall. And my premise is I don't want to hear any more about liberal hypocrisy. I really don't want to hear any more about liberals breaking the rules. I don't want to hear about liberals being obnoxious because I know all that. It's important for normal people, though, who aren't woke yet. But things like Afghanistan, with dudes falling off of airplanes because of Grandpa Krusty's total incompetence, that wakes people up. And I still think we need to say it to wake up the few who haven't fully gotten based. But I think people are on the way, and they're just saying, no, I'm not doing it.
Just doing this radio show within 24 hours of that raid, people that don't even like Donald Trump
are
ticked.
It is a time for choosing.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I don't want to hear about your... Well, he has a lot of mean tweets, and sometimes he was with Playboy bunnies, and they scare me.
I get all that, but a lot of people that didn't like that phase of Trump, and there's lots of people out there
There's
that like
lots
that.
of people. The guy is controversial.
But if the FBI will come after somebody like Trump with impunity, I mean,
and nonsense. And look, let's be clear. They're trying to frame him again. They tried to frame him with Russiagate. They tried to frame him with these bogus impeachments.
They're trying to disqualify him from running again.
Yeah, by framing him.
Right. They are terrified of the prospect of him running again and winning.
They better be terrified of that because I think he's going to want vengeance. And I got to tell you, a lot of us want vengeance. A lot of us want payback. You change the rules have changed. And that may not be the most constructive policy, but human nature trumps rationality.
And the thing that was fascinating about this to me is you saw all of the other potential presidential candidates.
Oh, yeah.
You saw everybody from Ted Cruz to Ron DeSantis.
Saw Ted Cruz this weekend at the Testicle Fest in Nevada.
Lamb fries.
Yeah. I don't go for euphemism.
All these other people that are going to be trying to take Trump out in a primary, even they saw this and went...
No, as they had to. You can't be... I think Tim Scott, who is a nice guy, and I like him, and I would love him as a neighbor because he'd always give me a nice jump start or loan me, if I'm out of coffee, he'd have it. When he said on CBS News, well, we have to see how all the facts spread out, I'm like, disqualled. He doesn't know what time it is. He is too nice. I want him in the Senate. I think there is a place for him. I would love to run. I would love to be in a world where Tim Scott's prevailed, where the vision that Tim Scott has prevails. Look, I'm a break glass in case of war kind of guy.
Right.
But most people aren't. That would be the world that I'm shooting for, figuratively. But that ain't the world we're in. He is not a wartime consigliere. I think he disqualified himself, like Kristi Noem disqualified herself for sucking up to the Chamber of Commerce.
See, that's not a good look either.
No, it is not a good
really
look.
isn't.
Guys, you got to know what time it is. You can't tolerate this, and you can't pretend there is a situation or a constellation of facts that makes sending guys with guns to your number one political opponent's house with a warrant so broad.
If you don't,
it makes, I'm not even going to do a Kamala joke. You can't do it.
If you don't like Trump, I get that. But if you think that you can sit by and say, well, it's just Trump they got, you think they're going to stop there?
No, they're not after Trump. They're after you. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Thank you, everybody, here at the Relief Factor studio for helping me out. I'll be here tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
It's going to be amazing. Bye-bye.